You know, some battles are fought for land or for honor. This one, it was fought for profit. And it wasn't one with courage, it was one with a conspiracy. We're talking about the Battle of Plassey, a single day that basically handed the future of India to a corporation for the next 200 years. Let's get into how it all went down.
Mark this day on your calendar, June 23, 1757. It was a hot, humid day in a little mango grove in Bengal. It sounds pretty insignificant, right? But this day would become a massive turning point for an entire subcontinent, kicking off a chain of events that led to the rise of the British Empire in India.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? On paper, this was an impossible fight. So how on earth did a small, totally outnumbered force just overwhelm a massive army? Well, the answer isn't found in military tactics, it's found in a backroom deal.
All right, so to really get how this happened, we've got to rewind to the mid-1700s. Bengal at this point was basically a powder keg of competing interests just waiting for a spark.
So, let's meet our two main players. On one side, you've got Siraj-ud-Daulah. He's the young Nawab, the ruler of Bengal, which was India's wealthiest province by far. And on the other side, the British East India Company. Now, these guys started out as simple traders, but they had much, much bigger plans. They didn't just want profit, they wanted power, land, and, you guessed it, total control.
Things finally just boiled over when Siraj, who was getting pretty nervous about the company's growing power, went and attacked their fort at Calcutta. And for the East India Company, this wasn't just a loss. Oh no. It was the perfect excuse, the justification they needed to get their revenge and, really, to begin their conquest. So how did the company fight back? Well, this is where the story gets really clever. They knew they couldn't win a straight-up fight, so they decided to play a different game entirely, one fought with secrets, not soldiers.
And this brings us to Robert Clive. He was the company's military guy and an absolutely brilliant, if ruthless, strategist. He took one look at the Nawab's 50,000-strong army and knew a direct attack was basically suicide. So he decided to completely ignore his enemy's strength and instead go after his biggest weakness, the loyalty of his commanders.
Clive's plan wasn't really a battle plan at all. It was more like a script for a coup. Super simple, really. Step 1, find the unhappy, disgruntled commanders inside the Nawab's own army. Step 2, go to the most powerful one with an offer he just can't refuse. And finally, Step 3, get a solid promise that on the day of the battle, their part of the army would just stand down.
And you know what? He found his guys. Mir Jafar, who was the Nawab's most powerful general, and a few other key commanders like Rai-Dulab and Yar Lutuf Khan. These were the men who held the fate of Bengal in their hands, and, well, they were ready to sell it.
So what was the prize for this massive betrayal? The throne. That's it. Clive promised Mir Jafar that if he helped bring down Siraj-ud-Daulah, the British would make him the new puppet Nawab of Bengal. Greed was the weapon, and the prize was an entire kingdom.
And just like that, the stage was set. The battle wasn't going to be decided by who fought better on the field. Nope. It had already been decided by a secret handshake weeks earlier.
I mean, seriously, look at these numbers. It's almost comical. 50,000 soldiers against a tiny force of 3,000. This should have been an absolute slaughter. But what Clive knew was that the numbers on paper, they didn't tell the real story.
So on the day of the battle, the morning starts with this super tense standoff. Then, a twist of fate, a sudden, massive downpour. And by the afternoon, as the skies cleared, Clive made his move, counting on his secret partners to do their part, which, of course, was to do absolutely nothing. That rain, it was a total game changer. See, the Nawab's army hadn't protected their gunpowder. It got completely soaked, which made their cannons, their single biggest advantage, totally useless. Clive's guys, on the other hand, had kept their powder dry.
So with his cannons out of action, Siraj-ud-Daulah looks to his most trusted general, Mir Jafar, to lead the charge. He's waiting for the attack order to be given. But the order, it never came. Mir Jafar and his huge chunk of the army just stood there, silent.
And right there, in that deafening silence from his own side, the young Nawab finally understood the horrifying truth. The battle wasn't just being lost. It had been sold. He had been completely and utterly betrayed.
After that, the collapse was fast. The battle was over almost before it even really started, and now it was time for the company and its new friends to cash in.
With his army in total chaos,
Siraj-ud-Daulah had no choice but to flee, but there was nowhere to go. He was captured a short time later and executed. Just like that, the last independent Nawab of Bengal was gone.
So what did the East India Company get out of all this? In a word, everything. They got full rights to collect taxes in Bengal, complete control of its ports, a total monopoly on trade, and, this is the big one, a secure base of operations to start expanding across the rest of India.
And that's why Plassey was so much more than just a military victory. This was the exact moment the East India Company stopped being just a business and started being a government, a ruling power.
You really have to think of Plassey as the first domino. With the unimaginable wealth of Bengal now bankrolling their ambitions, the British had everything they needed to start taking over the rest of the subcontinent, one piece at a time.
And the consequence of that one afternoon? 200 years. 2 entire centuries of British rule in India can be traced right back to that single act of betrayal in a mango grove.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. Empires aren't always built with armies and brute force. Sometimes they're built with deceit. And if the story of Plassey teaches us anything, it's that the most powerful weapon in the world isn't always a cannon. Sometimes it's just a really, really profitable lie.